when something does go right, and we need to recognize that. And that's what we're here tonight for, is to do that. I appreciate the family taking their time to come out, and Dwayne, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of history of what went on. January 17th, there was a fire at 302A Leslie Avenue. That fire started on a stove. One of the young men here named Rosalind actually was trying to help out. He had the pot. He was going to try to remove it to the outside, and actually got burned and dropped it in the living room. When he did that, that spread the fire all over the living room floor. That's when Dwayne came in. And Dwayne seen what was happening in the living room with the fire. As we've taught in classes, they had a portable fire extinguisher. He went and got it. Thought he could put the fire out. Well, as it happened, he couldn't put it out. It did not work right. So he got his brother out. Took him out the back door. When he came back in, he said the fire had grown a whole lot, and it actually would not let him go back up the steps to where his other two brothers were at on the second floor, trapped because the fire was in the way. This young man standing before you today got up on the back of the couch, went down the back of the couch, climbed over the railing to go up to the second floor to get his two siblings. He got them, brought them back down the house, back past the fire and to the outside. Then they had to go to a neighbor's house to call 911. After going over with a lot of the guys, and we viewed that house, there is little doubt in my mind and the guy's mind that if he had not done what he did, those kids probably wouldn't be there. I consider him. I think he's done a fantastic job. He made a decision. Okay, do I leave the house and go call 911, or do I rescue my brothers? And he did that. And I think that was an unbelievable act of courage. And we're here tonight to honor that, because I think those moments need to be recognized in people. This don't happen very often, but when it does, we need to recognize that. So we want to make sure that we let him know how proud we are of him and what he did.
As I said a moment ago, we have with us Mark Filburn and Troy Pitcock from the Kentucky League of Cities and their Criminal Justice Department. And they're going to go through a presentation of their process that they use when hiring police chiefs. So if you would give them your attention, they've got a short presentation for us, and then we'll be able to ask any questions that you all might have of them. But we think this is a good process, and they're going to outline that for us.
Good evening, everybody. That was really great. That was really neat. That's something to see. I'm glad we drove down for that. If you can see, or you want to look over here on the side, just first of all, give you a little background of who we are, just so you know who's talking to you. I always like to know who's talking to you. First of all, we're with the Kentucky League of Cities. We're with the insurance branch, which is part of the Kentucky League of Cities. The league was formed in 1927, but in 1987 we started an insurance program. It's basically the private insurance companies dropped out because they weren't making a lot of money and there was a lot of lawsuits. So the League of Cities, looking to protect the city, started our own program. It's been around several years. This is our group that we work out of. We have people that work in different specialties. Troy and I, that's me on the big head on the left and Troy on the right. Troy and I work law enforcement only, strictly law enforcement. Our background is that we're from the Louisville, Jefferson County Police Department, Louisville Metro. We've been in specialized units, SWAT team, training unit, Secret Service, homicide, narcotics. We couldn't keep a job. Command, leadership. Troy retired as a major. I retired as a lieutenant. We also worked in the public integrity unit, which investigated all police shootings, criminal acts, anything where an officer used deadly force or any issue like that. So that's basically, we've got a lot of background in law enforcement, and that's our law enforcement background. As far as the KLC program, the program has a lot of success. We have some of the lowest losses in the country. Troy and I are asked to speak all over the country. We're actually speaking in Las Vegas this month. So it's a good program. It's been around for a long time, and we have a lot of success. Three things we tell people to look at in our risk management plan is policy, training, and supervision. Those are the three critical areas. Why is this important to the city? Lawsuit, injuries, your insurance provider. We have reinsurers. And is that thing driving you on crazy? It's driving me crazy. I'm turning it off. Can you still hear me? Okay. All these losses, when you have high lawsuits and you have workers' comp, it's higher rates for the city and less money for all of us to operate. So that's why it's important. Where's the city police department exposed to liability, negligent hiring and firing practices, non-existent, inadequate policies, inadequate training, poor leadership, supervision, sloppy administration, and discipline. Those are the big things that we see. And when the city's sued, it's usually they're trying to get to the city. That's where the big pocket is, or the insurance program. But the city's name, the mayor's name, usually the chief of police, the immediate supervisor, the training officer, then the officer that was actually involved in the situation. So when we talk about these three things, and we talk about them all over the place, supervision is the most critical one. We've done new chiefs courses. We teach them in service. And when Troy, my partner, I've been in this job for 10 years now. Troy just started last year. He said, Mark, you go all over the place and you tell everybody those are the three critical ones. And the supervision is the main reason and the most important thing. Why don't we get involved in that more? So we started to be more involved in the hiring process because that is the most critical thing, who you hire as a police chief. If you don't have a good police chief, all the other stuff really doesn't matter. It's all about leadership. And you can see that in any field. You look at anything in life, if you got bad leadership, you're going to have bad issues. And I've been in this job for 10 years and I've seen all kinds of disasters as far as hiring police chiefs. And I want to give you some of these bad hiring reasons. One, I would never have hired someone for my business the way I did my police chief. I knew the person, he seemed nice, so I did not do a background. This particular mayor was very intelligent, very sharp, ran a high, expensive company. But when he went to hire his chief, he just knew this guy was a policeman, and he hired him, made him the chief, and went on about his business. The next day, somebody in the city Googled, searched the chief's name, and stuck flyers in all the people in the city's mailboxes where this guy had been fired from another department and the mayor didn't know anything about it. he was a friend. He helped me in the past. Everyone deserves a second chance. I asked him if there was anything I needed to know about his background. We had one chief that hired somebody and asked him in a 5-minute interview, is there anything I need to know about your background? The guy had been locked up like 4 times, and he said, no, nothing in my background. He subsequently lost them about $1 million to the city. We had another chief that lost over, I don't know, about $5 or $6 million in lawsuits. Again, poor leadership and no hiring practice. So I could go on all night, I'm not going to bore you with all that, but those are the horror stories. And I could give you more examples of the bad hiring process. And it's not the bad hiring process, it's no hiring process and not following the process. That's what we found. So Troy's going to talk about one of the success things that we've had, and then what we think a good process is. You want this? I
think you can hear me. If you can't, please let me know.
You want to listen?
We picked out a success story that we've had hiring a chief that we felt was somewhat similar to the city of Glasgow. The city of Taylorsville, also on a lake, just outside Louisville, if you are not familiar with that. They approached us and wanted some help with the hiring of their new police chief back last year. The conversation began with, we're just a small town. Who's going to want to come here and be our police chief? And when Mark and I sat down and talked to him, we said, there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in this job, I promise you. They designed a description, put it out for what they were looking for in their police chief. We had nearly 50 applicants from across the country put in for that position. That's a pretty good number. A lot of good-sized police departments right now are not getting that number for officers apply. So we go through the process that I'm getting ready to explain to you here shortly, and ultimately we end up assisting them. We don't make the hire. That is the city or the mayor's decision. We just run a process. Ultimately, they hired a retired Kentucky State Police captain that was commander of one of their posts. He was also the commander of their training unit. He'd been retired for a couple years and was looking to get back in law enforcement. Chief Crumpton here could be the chief, quite honestly, of any police department throughout the country. So that's one example of a success that we've had. I'm going to give you a quick overview. This is not all-inclusive, but it's a quick overview of the process that we utilize. This process is a blended process of processes that we've seen across the country that big organizations, big cities use, from a New York to an LA to small. But it has all the aspects of what makes for a successful hiring of a police chief. First off, it begins with the posting. What are we looking for in your police chief? Or not, what are we looking for? What are you all looking for in your police chief? So we will assist in the design of that posting. That's your qualifications. What are you all looking for? Do you want X number of years of service in law enforcement? Do you want X number of years of command experience? Do you want some kind of specialty schools? Are you looking for somebody that specializes in community-oriented policing? So that's where we'll design the posting. Then from there, we'll begin with the national search using KCP, Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police, other organizations. We'll get the information out there that Glasgow, Kentucky is conducting a police search based on that posting. Then there'll be a pre-screening of the applicants. That'll be Mark, myself, and possibly another individual or so. We'll look at a number of things. Do the applicants meet the criteria that you all set forth that you want for your chief? Looking at in-state and out-of-state, your chief has to be POP certified, which means they comply with the state of Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice training for that background. I talked to them today, and in this meeting, I couldn't begin to explain to you the process of out-of-state. We'd be here the rest of the night, but there's a process for that, and you have to have X number of hours training. Just pick any state you want, Alabama, whatever. If that candidate put in, does their basic academy meet Kentucky Department of Justice guidelines for their basic academy? And I can tell you in the state of Kentucky, we have one of the better training academies in the country. So you got to look at all that. Then from there, there's a committee put together, and what you're looking for there is transparency. The committee should consist of Kentucky League of Cities, some members of the community, and possibly council members. From there, you're going to do an assessment of the candidates by the committee. We'll work with HR and an attorney to ensure the questions and possibly a practical comply with state